Welcome to Fiscal University. Uncle Mark here. Today we're going to talk about financial management software. You know, we've talked a lot lately about establishing a budget, tracking your expenses, keeping track of where your finances are. One of the easiest ways to do that is through financial management software that you can run on your Windows PC or on a Mac. Now the gold standard here, as Grandpa said, is Quicken. However, the main versions of Quicken only run on Windows. They do make a product for the Mac. It's called Quicken Essentials for Mac. It's what I've used for probably 5 or 6 years now. It does have some limitations, but it gets the job done, and that's what I'm going to show you via demo today. Now you can, if you want to, run Windows on a Mac. You do that by first getting a software that lets you do that. I would recommend a product called Parallels. The current version is Parallels 9. Costs about $80, and then you got to buy a copy of Windows. I'd recommend Windows 7 for home. That's another $80-90. So for about another $180, you can get that to work, and it works very well. I know several people who do it. Actually, I think one of the main reasons people buy Parallels is to run kind of the Quicken family of financial products, which would include Quicken, TurboTax, and QuickBooks if you run a small business. And as prepping for this, I've been thinking about doing that. So if I do, I'll do another one of these videos and show you how to do it. But before we get into the demo, I thought we'd start by kind of showing you around my office setup. Just redid it about a year or so ago. Really like the way it's set up, and I think you might get some good ideas for how to do your setup at home. So let's have a look. Okay, for a computer now I use a MacBook Air. I used a Mac Mini until just a couple years ago. Decided to make the move over to the MacBook Air, which sits right here. Mainly because once we bought the condo up at Notre Dame, I wanted to be able to take my home computer with me, if you will, and it works great. Probably my favorite piece is this big display. It's a 27-inch Apple Thunderbolt display. Best thing about it is it acts as a docking station for the laptop. So all the peripherals and the Ethernet connection and everything is done through the display, and then there's just two simple connections to the MacBook Air. There's a Thunderbolt connection on the other side, and then the display also has a power dongle on it, so you can just keep the laptop powered up while it's connected. As you can see, and I know you can't see the details, but that's good, but with the 27-inch display I can get a lot of information on the display. So here I've got my browser up with hooked up to Bank of America, and then I've got my Quicken window over here, and that's how I typically work, because I do things manual. So I'll pull up the bank information every couple days, move transactions over in Quicken, so I track things. And that's one thing I would stress, is be sure you get online access to all your accounts, whether it's your bank accounts, your brokerage accounts, whatever they are. You'll find that very helpful throughout. I've got a couple speakers hooked up, which just hook up to the audio output port on the MacBook Air. One of the things I've discovered that I really like to do is, you know, a feature of iTunes now is iTunes Radio. So when I'm working up here, I'll pull up a window of iTunes, turn on iTunes Radio, and just listen to music while I work. It's really great. And they sound pretty good too. This is my backup hard drive, and really want to stress an important point here. Now obviously you all should have a backup drive on your computer just so you don't lose information, and that's doubly important when it comes to your financial tracking, because the last thing you want to do is, after setting it all up and using it for a year or so, lose everything you've done. So having backups is very important. You know, the Mac has a great software product in Time Machine to automatically do those backups. This backup drive is totally assigned to Time Machine, and it does a great job. The only thing you got to remember is, you know, the size of your backup drive has to be the same size or bigger than your drive in your computer. And if you have other external drives hooked up and want backed up, it's got to be bigger than the total of those. But the good news is today, backup hard drive space is really cheap. You can get a terabyte, 2 terabytes, 5 terabytes probably. Really pretty inexpensive. Let me talk about my input devices. I've got a full-size wired keyboard actually that's got the numeric pad on the side. I just like to use that. And for a mouse I use a trackpad, which is wireless, again an Apple product. And these are really cool because you can set them up to work how you like to work. So I've got mine set up that when I want to move the mouse around I just use one finger on the pad. When I want to scroll in a window, instead of having to go use the up-down slide on the side, I just use 2 fingers. And then if I want to drag and drop or stretch a window, I just use 3 fingers. And then if you want to click the mouse, you just tap the pad. So it's really cool. It does run on batteries, goes through them relatively fast sometimes, but that's okay. And I think that's it. Okay, for this part I thought I'd do it on the floor. So over here I've got my black and white LaserJet printer. It's kind of my workhorse printer. Most of the work I do is with it. Next to it is a shredder. That's another important point. Always shred or burn or somehow otherwise dispose of your sensitive documents instead of putting them in the trash. You can't see it, but I've got a little basket back here where I put most of my stuff, because then what we do is when we have a bonfire or something like that, we just take it back and burn it. These are on shelves, so they come in and out really easy if you need to service them. And the printer is on the hardwired internet in the house as well. Over here I do have a color printer, which I don't use too much, only when I really have to print in color or print a photo or something like that. It does have a scanner on it too, which is nice to have going forward. Up here is one of my favorites, is a little Dymo label printer. It actually has two printers in it. Over here on the left side I use it to print labels, usually for letters and that kind of thing. And then on the right I can actually print stamps. I use stamps.com. It's really kind of a neat setup, so I can print my own postage. On the right side of the MacBook Air, which I didn't really show you, also have a scale that hooks up to the computer via a USB port. So for shipping packages and stuff, I can just put the package on the scale, and then I can print my shipping labels and print my postage right here. It's pretty cool. Okay, so this is what you see when you first open a new file in Quicken Essentials for Mac. It attempts to take you through an auto setup, which you can do. I tend to do things manually though, so I'm not going to go through the automatic. I would encourage you to, when it prompts you to go on ahead and set up an account with Quicken, because a lot of times later when you update your holdings in your brokerage accounts or anything you do kind of automatically online, it'll do it through your Quicken account. So no real issue setting that up. I'm going to show you quickly here on how to set up one account. And two, let me just talk about accounts a little bit. Accounts are where you hold assets and liabilities. So these deal with your net worth, which has to do with, obviously your net worth is assets minus liabilities. So things like assets might be checking accounts, brokerage accounts, your house, cars, those kind of things, jewelry even. But you don't want to list everything you have as an asset. You just want to list the kind of major stuff. And then liabilities are things like your mortgage you could have on your house, or a loan you could have on your autos. So we're going to set those up first, and then we'll move later into categories, which is where you track your income and expenses. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just I'm going to click out of I'm going to go to accounts summary here over on the left side. It says I haven't added any accounts, which is true. I'm going to do an initial setup of a checking account. So I go down here on the lower left, hit the little plus sign. I get a list of different account types I can create, and I'm going to go up here to checking, and I'm going to hit checking. Oops, sorry, the window appeared kind of outside my recording window, so let me just go up here and lower that down so you can see it. And hopefully that won't do that again. So again, when you're setting up a new account, it wants to go out and automatically hook up to your bank, and you can do that if you want to download transactions in the future from the bank. But again, I find I like to do everything manual, so I just don't do this. So just go down here in the right of this window and hit continue. It'll ask how should Quicken connect, and it's set up on manual, which is what I like. So again, I hit continue and then finally hit finish. So now you'll see under accounts here on the left side, I now have my first account, which is checking. So let's first give it a name for our bank so we can recognize which account it is in case we have multiple checking accounts. So I'm going to call it Bank of America Checking. You might want to call it joint checking or something like that if that would apply. And then I'm just going to click out so it takes that. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is on all these accounts is, especially checking accounts, is set up a starting balance. Now the way I do this is it's best to go off the ending balance from your last statement you got from the bank and put that in as your starting balance, and then if you can, enter in all the transactions of any uncleared checks or ATM withdrawals or those kind of things you've done. And don't worry if you miss one or two, because when you reconcile your account the next month, which you should do every month, you'll be able to find those, oh, I forgot to put this one down, and you can just add it in the future. That's one of the benefits of an electronic checkbook versus a paper one. So I'm going to go on ahead and put in my starting balance, and the way I do that is I'm just going to enter in a new transaction. So I go down here on the bottom left and I click on the little new. And now, another important thing, I like to put the starting balances in so they don't impact my financial recording of the current year. So since I'm just putting in a starting balance, I make it December 31st of the year before. So I'm going to do 12 tab 31 tab 2013. And I'm going to go over here and let's say I started with $5,000 in this account, which would be a deposit, and then I hit save. So now I've got my first account and it's got a balance of $5,000. So that shows you how to set up your first account. I'm going to jump ahead to a other Club Mac demo account I've set up, which has some more stuff in it, but we'll still build from there going forward. Okay? So now I've gone to a different file that I've got set up a little more, so we can skip all the steps to set everything up. I am going to add a few more accounts just so you can see how to add some different types. So you can see now over in accounts I've got several. So I've still got my Bank of America checking. I've set up a cash account, and we're doing this for Charlotte. So this is her Quicken file. If I click on her cash account, look, she's got $200 in cash. I've also added a savings account, again with Bank of America. If I click on that, I can see we have a starting balance there of $10,000. I've set up a credit card account that is labeled American Express, and if I look there, there's a $38 charge on that from PetSmart, which makes total sense. Charlotte's got a 401k at Boeing. So I clicked on that. I've got a few assets in here. She's got 50 shares of Apple and 125 shares of Boeing in that account, worth a little less than $19,000. Charlotte's got a nice little house here in Kirkwood that's worth $250,000, which is what we made the starting balance. But she does have a mortgage on it. So if we click on mortgage, she's got a mortgage of $175,000. So one thing I want to show you right away is if I go up here to the top under Tools and I just click under Account Summary, so this will tell me my net worth. So it tells me what my assets are, which I've got assets in total of $285,000, which are made up of checking, savings, cash, the house, and retirement, the 401k. And then I've got two liabilities. My credit card, what I owe, and the liability on the mortgage on the house. So the net worth is assets minus liabilities equals my net worth. Now Charlotte, with a net worth of about $110,000, would probably be in the top 5% of Americans, because I think the average net worth in the United States right now is about $50,000, which is kind of scary. But this is a great tool to just get a good picture of your financial health all the time. Okay, so I'm gonna show you adding 2 more accounts. So I'm just gonna go back to accounts. I'll just click on Bank of America Checking. Again, to add an account, you go down here to the plus sign on the bottom left for creating a new account. Click on it. What I'm going to add now is, so Charlotte's got a nice 2010 Mini Cooper, but she does have a loan on it. So first one I'm going to put in is the Mini Cooper, so that's an asset. Click on that. Oops, sorry, I got to move my window again. Bear with me. This one I just need to kind of say finish, and it'll be done. And I'll just see now, besides my house, I just have a generic asset. Click on the name, and this is a 2010 Mini Cooper. And click out of that. Now again, my initial balance, I do like I did before on my other accounts. I'm going to hit click new. I'm going to go back to the last day of last year. And I'm going to say that Mini Cooper is worth $10,000. Okay, and hit save. Now I'm going to add the loan. Again, go down the plus sign. Now a loan is a liability. So I click on a liability. Again, it tries to go through the auto setup of bank loan. Again, I don't like to do that, so I'm going to do continue. Continue to do manual and then finish. Now I've got another generic liability here, and I'm going to click on that and say 2010 Mini Cooper loan is what I'm going to call that. Again, I have to put in a starting balance, so I'm going to say again 12/31/2013, and I'm going to say her loan is $6,000, and this goes under increase because it's an increase to the liability. Okay, so now after I've done that, let me just go back to that account summary real quick to show you the changes. So it's moved a little bit because I've increased my assets a little bit and increased my liabilities. And if you want to kind of scroll down and see what they are, you can see here down property and debt, I've got the 2 assets, the house and the Mini Cooper, and 2 liabilities, the loan on the car and the mortgage. Okay. One thing I should have added, again, I mentioned earlier, you don't want to put every asset you have in here. You can do a broad category like for home furnishings or jewelry, but I think you got to be careful not to, because they aren't really liquid assets, and the valuation of those assets can change over time. You want to be pretty conservative in how you record those, just because you don't want to overstate your net worth with things that you really aren't really liquid. I do tend to put cars in there because they are, besides your house, they're a pretty valuable asset. But the thing you got to remember is cars depreciate over time. So what I do is at the end of every year, and I usually do it in the start of the next year after I've kind of done my reporting and stuff, I'll go on ahead and put a depreciation charge in there on my cars just to kind of reflect, hey, basically if I sold it today, what do I think I would have gotten for it? So just wanted to add that little piece. So I think we've gone through accounts so far. And what we're going to do next is switch over to categories, which is where you track your incomes and expense. And after that, we'll move into, I'll do some transaction entering, reporting, that kind of thing, so you can see the whole thing. Okay? So now we're going to move into income and expense categories. So where before, with accounts, we were tracking assets and liabilities. Here's where we're tracking, where our money comes from and where it goes from an income and spending standpoint. Now, here I'm going to show you one of the things that really kind of bugs me about Quicken Essentials for Mac. Basically, that it doesn't really give you an easy way to go in and edit your category. So I'm going to show you how you have to do it. So here I went back to an earlier demo, if you don't mind. So this is, the Bank of America checking. And what I want you to do is just start entering a new transaction. So go down here and hit new. Doesn't matter on the date because we're just going to go over here to tab over to category. And now in the center here, you're going to see the default list of categories that Quicken sets up for you. It's not a bad list, but I like to use a numbered list that I've talked about previously. And I'm going to show you that list. But first thing I want you to do is go in here and just delete all these. The other thing, by the way, I don't like about these is because they go by names, they're in name alphabetical order. By using numbers, you can categorize all your income categories together, different maybe order segmentation, if you will, of expense categories, which I prefer. So once you get over here to category, just go down here in the bottom right and click edit, and it'll flip over, and now it'll list all the accounts. And here's basically down here in the lower left, this is where you add categories of subcategories. Here's where you get rid of categories. Here's where you can edit categories. And then a couple choices here to either remove categories you haven't used or only show those if you want to look at them that way. But anyway, what I want you to do here is just go through and hit the negative sign and just delete every one of these. Okay. Now I'm just going to add a few categories here so you can get a feel for how you add them. And then I'm going to go through another file that's got them already all in there, and I can show you the list like I like to do it, and then I'm going to show you there how to do some subcategories. So here, again, I go to the plus sign to add a category. I just say new category, and I'm going to start with 00, and then I go space dash space Charlotte salary. Now you can also tie it if you want to a tax form. Again, I tend to not do that. Usually later it's got good enough reporting you can figure out what's going in your charity, what's your dividend income, all that kind of stuff later, and I'll show you that later as well. You can drag an image if you want to tie an image to the category, but I usually don't do that as well. Now let me give you my basic numbering system. I use 00 through 09 as my income categories. I use 10 through 30 to do most of my general spending categories, and I'll show you those later. 30s are gosh, I want to say insurance. I got to remember looking at that, and then 40s I use for taxes. Okay, and I'll show you those in the end. So let's think about some different income categories. So here, let me finish up this one with salary. So I'll just say save. Now I'm going to add another one. Again, a category versus a subcategory, and I'm going to call this one 01 Club Mac. I always have Club Mac as an income source because it tends to be one, which is great. I'm going to add a third one here. 02 gifts received. And save. Add another one. New category. So I know it seems like a lot to set these up initially, but you know, the good thing is once you get it done once, you never have to do it again. You can just add further subcategories or those kind of things if you want to in the future. So I'm going to make 03 interest income, and one more new category, dividend income. Save, and that is a, oops, I didn't do that right. So here, let me show you how to edit. So I didn't put the number in there, so I'm going to go down here and hit edit, and now it pops up again, and I can just put the 04 in front of it and hit save. And then finally, and this is good for income and expense, define a miscellaneous, just for if you do have something that doesn't quite fit into the other categories, you can put it under miscellaneous. So that gives you an idea of how to enter some of the categories. Okay, and I'm going to get out of this file right now and go to one that's got my complete list, and we'll pick it up again when I get that open. Okay, I've switched back to the larger demo file. As you can see over here on the left side, we've got the all the accounts we added previously. So I'm going to show you my revised category list. So again, unfortunately, due to a quirk in the software here, I've got to go into one of the accounts. I'll do Bank of America checking. I'm going to hit new transaction. Just tab over to categories so you can see them. So okay, so now you can see, the income categories we talked about earlier. Then 10, I've got car expenses, 11 charity, 12 is clothing, 13 politics, and you could read some of the other ones. Did remember that the 30s are where I do insurance and mainly utilities, so I can have subcategories there. And then here in the 40s, here's where I've actually set up some subcategories. So this is where I do taxes. And let me go into the edit mode so you can see how this is structured a little bit. If I click on edit, it'll flip around. And now if I scroll down to taxes, under the broad category of taxes, I have subcategories: federal, FICA, Medicare, personal property, property, and state. So let me go on ahead and show you how to do some subcategories in here. And again, the benefit of subcategories is it just lets you further refine where your spending is going. So one of the areas that I typically have subcategories on is entertainment. So if I want to put a subcategory to entertainment, I just click on entertainment, and then down here on the plus sign, I say new subcategory. And let's say the first subcategory is going to be dining out, going to restaurants, that kind of thing. I might have, so now I see my first subcategory of entertainment called dining out. Maybe Charlotte plays a lot of golf, and that's a big expense. So again, I can go down here under subcategory and have golf. And again, so now it puts it under entertainment. So now I got two subcategories: dining out and golf. And you can, when you track these, once you've established subcategories, you don't have to put everything in a subcategory. You can still assign things to just the top level entertainment category, and that'll be fine. So it almost works like a miscellaneous. Let me do just a few more. As an example, under utilities, I could have subcategories like electric. And maybe another one is gas. And I could have other ones under there too, such as cable, UVerse, sewer, trash collection, whatever kind of the utilities are in your neck of the woods. Okay? So that gives you an idea how to set up categories and how I've typically set them up. So go on ahead and here and hit OK, and those will be all in there. And since I haven't shown you how to do this, so I'm going to get out of here. And now I've still got this transaction I was starting to enter. I can just say cancel. Another quirk of Quicken is, even though I said cancel, it puts a transaction in there with a value of 0. But to get rid of that, I can just go down here on the bottom and click delete, and it'll go away. Just a couple other top-level comments on categories. Again, you should have one called miscellaneous expense. But if you find yourself putting a lot of stuff in miscellaneous, you probably should develop some additional categories, subcategories, so you can better track it. I'd also encourage you, if I've given you an outline of categories here, but you can tailor them obviously to how you want to manage things. And I would suggest first, to just write down what you think is an appropriate list for you, and go from there. And again, you can edit, you can delete categories and those kind of things if you need to going forward.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to next section where I'm going to show you some typical transaction entries, some of the more difficult ones, and then once we get a few of those in there, I can show you some of the reporting you can do on the categories as well. So one of the more complex transactions you're going to enter is when you receive a paycheck. And I say that because, when you get paid, there's what your income was, and there's a resultant deposit. But in the interim, there's probably a whole bunch of deductions for taxes, maybe 401ks, maybe other kind of categories. So they tend to be one of the more complex ones. So let me show you an example, because let's say Charlotte just got paid. And so we go down here. And I was playing with a transaction. Let me just delete that one first. So we're going to go down here and say new. And today she got paid, and she got paid by Boeing. And so let's first, before we put anything in category, we're going to go over here to deposit and list the amount that's actually deposited out of her paycheck. So let's say for Charlotte in this pay period, that was $2,000. Now, but we can't just divide that amongst one category. So what we're going to do is go down here and say add split. And I hit that. Oh, and now I get a whole bunch of stuff. So first thing I'm going to do is record Charlotte's salary, which is kind of the starting point, right? So I go over here, and again, that kind of goes on the positive side. So let's say her gross pay was $3,200. And now I tab over. So now it's showing I got $1,200 I haven't accounted for, which is the difference between the deposit and her salary. So I'm going to go on ahead and click on the next category here. And let's say the first thing is she paid federal income tax. Now, one of the things, since I know taxes are 40, I can just type 40 and it jumps me down to taxes, which saves a little time. And let's put in the first part, which is federal. And let's say federal was $500. Okay. And so tab over. Now you can see it's kind of keeping track, and I've got 700 to go. So let's continue. Next category. Again, it's a tax category, and this one's going to be FICA, Social Security, which let's say is $250. Okay. So then I click on the next category. Again, it's just kind of going down. I got $450 to go. So let's say still more taxes to pay, because there's a lot of taxes out there. So the next one is Medicare. And let's say Medicare is $150. And then I got one more tax category, which is going to be state, because she's in Missouri and has to pay state tax. And let's say that's $100. And finally, let's say Charlotte has $200 out of each paycheck taken out to go into her 401k. Well, that's not an expense. That's just a movement of money between into one of her accounts, separate from her checking account. So for that, we use this transfer column, and we click in the transfers. It pulls up a list of all the accounts I've set up. And so this $200 is going into her Boeing 401k. It already shows the $200, which is left. And then we're done, and we can just hit save. So now we've put that transaction in. It just shows the deposit. We can, if we click on split, I take that back. I think if I double click on it, it'll show it again like I'm editing, but I can just cancel that. So again, it leaves it that deposit. Now the good thing is, the next time she gets a paycheck, and let me just kind of show you how this works. Let me say I do a new one, and I'm gonna just enter it in as a week from now on the 25th, and she gets another paycheck, and it's from Boeing again. As soon as I click Boeing, it'll autofill based on the last time I did a Boeing paycheck. So as long as it hasn't changed, I just hit save and it'll be recorded. So I don't have to go through the entering of that every time. one of my frustrations is in reality, a lot of times things move by a penny or two, and you got to go in there and look at it and change it. So I'm going to, since I put that in twice, I'm going to delete that. And then it just expanded the other one, so that's okay. I'll just click somewhere else. And so that shows you how to enter a paycheck. Okay, another kind of complex transaction to put in is, let's say when I write a check for my house payment, because that involves multiple categories too. And let's say I'm about to enter in my first mortgage payment, and then when I'm looking at the statement, I realize that obviously when I pay a mortgage payment, I'm paying principal and interest, but let's say the bank is holding money in an escrow account, to pay insurance or property taxes or that kind of thing. And I realize, I don't really have an account yet to handle that escrow, because it really is like a little bank account that's being held for you. So let me go down here again. I'm going to add an account. Again, going down to the bottom left of the screen to the plus sign. And sorry, I get that kind of cut off just where I've got the screen, but I'm gonna do it as a oh gosh, what do I want to do it as? I'm gonna do it as a bank account. And again, I'm pulling things off the screen here. I don't want to do it automatic. I'm just going to do it manual. I hit finish. So now I've got another blank account here. I'm calling it a checking account. It could be a savings account, either one. But I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to call it mortgage escrow account. Okay? And again, I can just click out of that. Now I'm going to go back to my Bank of America checking, but that's where I'm writing my mortgage payment out of. I go down here to new again. And let's say this payment's going in on the 20th. And the payee is whoever my mortgage is with. So that would be, let's say it's with Bank of America. And again, first time I'm doing this, so I'm going to have to set up a split. So I go over here, and first, this is a payment out. And let's say Charlotte's payment is $1,000. So again, we put in the 1,000. Then we're going to go down here again to add split. Let's say the first thing we know is, boy, we're paying a bunch of interest expense, which is category 31. And let's say my interest expense is $750 of this. Then I know I've paid some money on my principal, right? So again, principal is really knocking down a liability. So this isn't a category expense. This is another transfer. And so what I'm going to do is it's basically going to go against my mortgage. So that's going to buy down my liability. And let's say 150 of that was principal. And finally, let's say $100 goes in this escrow account. Again, that's a transfer. And now you'll see I got mortgage escrow account. That's where the last $100 go. So I can hit save, and now I've done that transaction. Again, when I come back next month and add Bank of America, it'll autofill, and they're pretty close, so you can probably just hit enter. And then what I do is when I get next month's statement, which usually tells me how last month's was allocated between principal and interest, I'll go back in, edit, and fix the account. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to enter in some more transactions, and I'm going to do them a little faster, just because I think you're kind of getting the hang of this. So let's say my next payment is a car payment. So again, I'd hit new. Let's say maybe I'm doing that on the 22nd. The payee is BMW, since they make Mini Coopers. Again, this is going to be a split transaction because there's principal and interest on this. So let's say my payment was $500. And now I'm going to do add split again. And I've got interest expense, which we know is 31. and let's say that is $350, and then I'm paying down the mortgage. So again, that's not a category, that's a transfer. And I've got my 2010 Mini Cooper loan, and that's gone down 150, so I hit save. Now, so we've done a few transactions, so let's look at some of the other accounts and just see what's happened. So in the mortgage escrow account, we now have a balance of $100 from that last mortgage payment I made. If I go down here on my mortgage, I see it's down to $174,850 because I took down $150 of principal. My Mini Cooper loan is down $150 because, again, I had principal when I made that car payment. So let me show you again back on Bank of America. Let me show you an ATM withdrawal. So let's say I go new. I do it today. And so I'm pulling out cash out of an ATM. I really haven't spent it yet, right? So again, this is a transfer. And it goes into Charlotte Cash. And let's say I took out $150. Okay. So now if I go over and look at my Charlotte Cash account, I've got the $200 I pulled back on 8/1, and I have $150. So Charlotte's holding $350 in cash. Now when I pay for things with the cash, I need to do transactions out of my cash account. So let's say down here she went to Walgreens, and I've spent, let's say it was just on household items, which I think is 18, yes. Oops, I hit enter too fast, sorry. So I just click on the transaction, hit edit, and it lets me back in. And let's say she spent $36. Okay, so now she's down to $314 cash. Later that night, she went to Bar Louie. Again, 818. Let's say she went to Bar Louie. Category here is entertainment, right? And it's dining out. And let's say she spent $82. Okay. Let's go back to Bank of America. And let's say I go to the grocery store again. Again, I hit new. And let's say I did this. Oh, this was back on the 15th. And let's say I went to Deerberg's. So as soon as I hit D, it pulls up only the categories that start with D. So as you get more and more payees loaded, more of this gets automated and makes it easier. So yeah, Deerberg's is right. It knows Deerberg's typically groceries, which is correct. And let's say her payment here was $92. Okay? So we've gotten a few expenses in there, and now let me show you our category explorer up here on tools. So like, the account summary, which did it kind of for net worth, and now we've had some changes there. The category explorer tells you how you're doing on income and expense, right? So here it says my spending, and it's really just spending here. I've spent $2,413 in the last 12 months, and it gives me over here categories of where I've spent it, and you can break into those more if you want. Like I can double click on entertainment, and it's really dining out, $82. So that gives you an idea of some of the things you can do. You can also go up here at the top level and say, I want to look at spending, last 12 months, all accounts, and again, I could refine that to just the account I want to look at. And then down here, I can look at, I'm looking at spending in entertainment right now. But again, I can look at other ones like, well, what did I spend on groceries? Okay, I did 2 transactions, $157. It represents 7% of my spending. So again, you can get a feel for the reporting capabilities that kind of show you how you're doing. Now you can come down here too in reports and get a little more detailed look. If I go to category summary, it'll tell me how much money's come in, my income. So there's that $3,200 of that one paycheck I received, and so far I've had $1,313 go out, meaning I've netted $1,887, and then you can get a feel for where it's gone, if you will. Let me show you a few more things on this category summary screen. So if you want to expand, what it made up the money in, you can just click on that bar, and it'll show you that, okay, it was only the Charlotte salary category. If I click on the money out, it'll show me more details at a top level, and then I can click on entertainment and it'll show me the details going forward. I could also come over here to this update view to show me, and I've got choices like I can look at the details for each category. So now you can see I've got more details there if I want to see that. Or again, I could just see top level categories only. So a little bit of flexibility on the reportings you see here. And then, down here before it had transfers between accounts. If you want to track that, again, you can just click on the title bar and you'll get the details of when things move between accounts. Okay? Okay, I'm going to show you two more things and then we'll be done. So first one I want to show is how you do actually import data automatically from maybe an investment account you have out there. So I'm going to do one of Beth's IRA accounts. So again, you go down here on the plus sign because we're going to add an account. This one is actually an investment account and it's a 401k. Let me pull this down so you can see it on my recording. So this is a Charles Schwab account. We can just go into Charles Schwab and Company Inc. and hit continue. Now it'll ask for me for my login and password. So I will do that. So it goes out and looks for the accounts, finds them. There's actually 3 of them tied to this one. So I'm only going to have it add this first one. So on this other ones, I'm going to say ignore and ignore. So I'm going to add this one, and we're going to call the Quicken account name Beth IRA. Okay. And then we just hit continue. So it's updating the accounts, loading everything in. And now I'm done. I can just hit finish. So it entered it in. And this kind of shows another kind of limitation of Quicken Essentials for Mac. It basically loads in what's in the accounts, how many units are there, what the last price was, those kind of things. But it really doesn't give you the transaction history. But you can live without that. Let me show you one last thing. I'm going to go over to the Boeing 401k we created before. And this still has what I entered in and current values. I can go down here to update prices. Click on update prices. It'll go out and get the updated prices, and you can see they've gone up a little bit, and now it's up to 21,000. So I think that wraps it up, and I'll have some closing comments.
Uncle Mark here again. I know that was a little long, but I wanted it to be comprehensive, and I think it was a good overview of Quicken Essentials for Mac. Again, it's a great way to get a handle around your expenses, see where your money goes, so you can do that balance that we all have to do in life of balancing what we spend today versus what we save for the future tomorrow. But I tell you what, if you save early, it can really pay off in the long term. Do want to stress too that it is important in all this to get electronic access to your accounts, and all major banks and all major brokerages firms today let you do that, especially getting on the bank side. I use Bank of America. They have a great online system. They also give you bill pay for free, so you can set up as your bills come in, do payment just electronically, so you don't have to write checks, you don't have to use stamps, anything like that. So that works really good as well. So I think I'll wrap it up there. This has been fun. I hope you enjoyed it. And so on behalf of Fiscal University, have a great day. Thanks.